Welcome, everyone. Happy to share as much information as we can to help you market your business when things are canceled and the world has changed significantly. I'm Lori Hyvee, president and owner of Keystone Click, and my colleague Will Jurgensen is here. Say hi, Will.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
The topics we are going to cover, a brief overview on the current state of COVID-19, discussion around innovation and evolution, some best practices and unique tips. We've compiled some resources, some that you might have been aware of already and some that might be new to you. Some final words, and we're going to open it up for questions. You can ask some questions by commenting. All right, the current state of COVID-19. So I wanted to share with you that on Wednesday, I was able to connect with an agency friend of mine that is in China. She actually has 4 locations throughout Asia, and she gave some very interesting updates with regards to what's happening with them and what's changed in their economy. She shared with me that she found a Goldman Sachs article that stated China's economy is likely going to shrink 9% in the first quarter. Some positives that she shared, that production is increasing right now in China, and they're about up to 80% productivity right now, which is fantastic news. So all of this started, roughly January for them. They still do not have any new events that are being scheduled. Something to note, all of their cancellations started to take place in January. That included, the music shows, sports, church events, a lot of the things that we're seeing happening right here in the US. Something to note that this is what is starting right now in the US. So China is about 2 months ahead of where we are. So it's very important to take the precautions that you can right now for your business. The other thing that I wanted to share that was communicated to me from my agency friend in China is she's mapped out a list of the industries that are at risk. And I mean, to some extent, this is obvious, but I thought it was really good to share this information with you. So if you're falling in that at-risk category, now is the time to be doing something. You need to make a shift. You need to pivot, whatever it may be, or consider migrating to an alternative space that is going to allow for some level of opportunity. Will, you got this one?
Yes, innovation and some evolution. So as we talk about specifically some of those industries that are predominantly at risk, one thing to just note on that as well is there are certainly still a lot of industries that are going on business as normal. And it's important to take a quick moment to evaluate which businesses around you are in what state of mind, right? And so for those that are particularly at risk, there are certainly opportunity. What we have here is an example of a housekeeping service that now actually has shifted and is now offering online ordering for groceries. Automotive companies making healthcare equipment, distilleries making hand sanitizers. So our highlight more than anything here is that if you have an opportunity to shift and become a resource in some other capacity, now is the time to kind of evaluate what those options might be and start exploring creative opportunities to continue to provide services.
And I want to note that statement, this is verbatim from my agency friend in China, is the homebound economy is real. And that really resonated with me, and I felt it's important to share that with all of you.
Some best practices and unique tips. So one thing that Lori and I historically have always talked about, especially when it comes to social media, when we're speaking with our clients, is this idea of the 70-20-10 rule, 70% of your content online being evergreen, right? So as we talk about communication, being clear and often in your communication, specifically to your clients, what we consider right now to be an incredibly important task for us here at Keystone Click is making sure that we're touching base with all of our clients, not just our clients that we are currently doing work for, but also clients that we've worked with in the past, and allow them the opportunity to know that we are still available. We're being honest with them about what our capabilities are. We're being very transparent about how they can communicate with us, considering that most of us are working remote at this time. And more than anything, we're staying connected as a company as well, right? We're talking to each other, and the other people that are working here at Keystone Click, and they're remote, not only talking about work related topics, but also just asking how people are doing. And the question of today was, what makes you smile? So on top of your current employees, also making sure that you're taking care of your customers.
Thanks, Will. So one of the ways, well, a number of ways here. I've got a handful of tips. We both have a handful of tips to share with you. LinkedIn is really hot, especially if you're in the B2B space. And I would say a lot of what I'm sharing, to some extent, I've been communicating consistently, regardless of the current state of our national crisis and global crisis. But at the end of the day, just continue to be a valuable resource and be honest and transparent. There's no need to try to lie or say something that's not clearly communicated. I think this is a huge opportunity to be an advocate for those that you that are in your network, that you respect, that are up to as an influencer, or someone that you really want to help elevate. And you can do that by tagging them in your posts on social media, tag their companies. Video, as we all know, is extremely powerful, and LinkedIn has really made it a great place to showcase and tell your story. I think this is a great opportunity to connect with new individuals. And if you're going to be reaching out to individuals on LinkedIn, make sure that you are adding a note when you're reaching out with that connection. Hashtags are extremely powerful as well. This is a way to organize and filter your content. And again, going back to the advocacy, if someone is posting something that you found valuable, like it, comment, share it, let them know that you appreciate the information that's being published. Well, anything to add on LinkedIn? Sorry.
No, that's all right. This is how the remote thing goes, right? We might interrupt each other every once in a while. But again, it goes directly back to the 70-20-10 rule here, where everyone is in such a rush to try and create new content because people are spending more time online. That's a reality. And I think a lot of companies have seen that. You're probably spending a lot of time online yourself. You don't have to be producing all new content. Now is a really good opportunity to go back and look at some of your evergreen content that you can repurpose again today, and make sure that you're doing, more than anything, you're staying in front of your prospects and your audience in general.
And something to note with regards to social media, if you do have any scheduled posts or anything in an evergreen queue, this is a really good time to evaluate that content and make sure it is still timely to today's current business world. So you might want to pause some of those posts, or just defer them for future reference, or even just cancel them altogether. Paid advertising is something that's been extremely beneficial for a number of businesses on the consumer side and on the B2B side. And depending on where you are, I would say, unless you absolutely have to, do not stop your ads. It's extremely important to still make yourself visible. However, I would recommend considering lowering the budget and being super targeted on who it is your audience is, which is something you should already have been doing. But consider focusing on the platforms that are performing the best for you, and also adjusting the offerings that align specifically to the value that can be provided right now. Another thing to consider is retargeting. Retargeting is a great way to stay in front of individuals that are visiting your website. For those that aren't familiar with what retargeting is, it's simply you go to a site and then you look at something. You're not taking any action. You're not buying. You're not signing up for anything. But just in the next day or two, you start seeing ads. And it's a low-cost way to stay in front of your audience.
This is also a great opportunity to evaluate what your competitors are doing. I know it's a tough time to even use the word competitors, but at this, the reality is that people in your industry as well are doing everything they can to remain relevant. And so, as you're evaluating, Google searches, and even just social media posts and organic content, evaluate what some of your competitors are doing, and look for those opportunities that they're doing well, and don't be afraid to replicate that online.
One of the things that I do want to point out are there's some restrictions right now with regards to what you can advertise related to the current COVID-19 crisis. So depending on the platform that you intend to publish ads on and what it is you're trying to promote and sell, you'll want to do a little bit of homework, or feel free to reach out to us and we can help you with that as well. Email is hot. There's a lot of headlines saying that email open rates are the highest they've ever been right now. And really, at the end of the day, any online activity is increased numbers because of the fact that everyone is literally sitting in front of their computers right now. Some best practices around email is, especially in today's current state, is to only send the emails that your audience wants to see. We're not trying to sell right now. We're trying to be a value and be a resource. You want to be compassionate and considerate about the individual that you're sending this message to. You also want to be very compassionate in the messaging within your message and within the email. Share what you're doing with regards to the current state, and absolutely try to be a resource. Some major bullets related to any COVID-19 specific emails that you're sending out. First, I want to note, I really don't care about the COVID-19 plan for the hotel that I stayed in last year. Make sure you're only sending the message to individuals that are going to be impacted by the communication that's being sent out to. That may relate to current events that you are now canceling, how you're functioning remotely as a company, if you have a high foot traffic business, what you're doing to keep the company or the building cleaned, whatever that may be. Two vitals that I'd like to point out with regards to any email that are being sent. An email is open basically on these two triggers, the sender and the subject line. So for the sender, just know, if it's coming from you, the business owner, or is it coming from the business itself? And second is the subject line. Make sure that the subject line is telling that person exactly what is in the email.
And one thing I want to point out here that we're running into at Keystone Click as we are reaching out to our clients, as you can imagine, with so many people working remotely, their office phone number likely isn't going to bring about a response or bring about an answer. And therefore, I would still continue to start with that phone call, but then make sure to follow it up with an email, because that is going to be the best way to get in touch with your clients.
Nice. And I've noted on here the headline analyzer, which has been one of my favorite tools for many, many years. I know they just updated their website. This screenshot is a little outdated. But basically, you put the headline or the subject line of your email into this tool. It's a free tool, and it kind of gives you a score, which is the emotional marketing value, which the higher the number, the more likelihood that it's going to connect and resonate with that individual that you're sending it to, which increases the opportunity for the open rate to increase at the end of the day. All right, so let's talk about Facebook a little bit. Facebook, it has, first off, I want to note they've created some fantastic resources. In that lower left corner there, I include a link, facebook.com/business/boost/resource. They have a resilience toolkit and a quick action guide. So a lot of resources are being made available to you for free from a number of these big digital giants. Some best practices for you right now: take a look at your Facebook page, adjust the pinned post that you have, and update it with the important business details. So are you working remotely? How people can get in contact with you? What has changed with regards to your offerings? Maybe what measures you're taking from a safety standpoint, how you're handling customer inquiries. This is a good time to evaluate what you're doing with that call to action button on your Facebook page, or maybe you need to update that information. Do you need to change your phone number on your page because you're no longer available at the office? Consider doing some live video streaming on your page. That's, a lot of people are sitting on the social media channels right now, and live video gets you at the top of the feed typically. And something that might be an opportunity if you have a little bit of free time on your hands is to set up the instant reply messages within Facebook Messenger. So if someone does start messaging, you can have some automation built around that. Another thing to consider as far as a post on your page is a list of FAQs. So just kind of, again, the updates on what's happening related to your business.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off of a lot of what Lori just said right there. Best practices, right? Making sure that your images are up to date, not necessarily even up to date, but they're in the first place, right? Your business information, your address, your phone number, a good email to reach you at, just all the things that we can control on the back end on our own. Now is definitely a good time to kind of just take a step back and evaluate how you're presenting yourself specifically on Facebook.
Another thing to consider on Facebook is to boost some of your posts to get in front of your audience. So I've got a screenshot here. We've got a brick and mortar client who, their business is basically getting people in the door to buy the products that they're selling. And we've shifted some of their posts to be focusing heavily on their online catalog. All we've done is thrown $10 at it in the last week. The numbers and the views that we've seen have just skyrocketed. So even if you are brick and mortar or your service provider, find ways to shift the message, again, pivoting a little bit to still add value, because people are bored right now. They're sitting online. I mean, there's definitely a sense of fear to some extent, but they're looking at the internet, they're surfing the social media channels, and to some extent, they're getting exhausted with all the news and whatnot. So if you can just provide some value and something different in your feed, put a little couple dollars behind it from a boost, you're going to get a lot of exposure for your brand. Some examples of information, some of those evergreen blog posts that Will was talking about. If you've got a catalog, any resources, any new updates related to your business, those are types of things to boost.
And I think what's important to keep in mind is a lot of this is future thinking as well, right? So these might not be creating sales immediately, but again, a lot of what we're talking about is staying relevant, staying up to date, and making sure that when we are able to all push forward, you're still top of mind for your consumers.
Blogging, and anyone that has heard me speak in the past knows that this is one of the biggest things that I'm advocating for. So if you find that you have a little bit of extra free time in your hands, this is the time to hunker down and start writing some blog posts. Best practices are to, make it around 500 words, make it easy to read, leveraging lists and bullets, share this information on social media and add value. Some resources to find topics, answerthepublic.com, Quora.com, Quora.com. And then think about the questions that people are asking you, the who, what, when, why, where questions related to your business, and try to answer those questions in the form of a blog post.
Yeah, a lot of that goes back to your FAQs as well. Absolutely. Trying to think of what types of questions people are typing in online that you can be an advocate to answer.
As you can see, webinars are hot. I think that's a big thing that's blowing up my inbox and my social media feeds right now. Everyone is online, and it's a great way to get in front of your audience. You want to be adding value. We're not trying to sell right now. I would highly recommend you practice before you actually deliver the webinar. And some best practices for you is explain how to use the technology, filling out a question or comments, raising your hand, whatever the platform is that you're using. No different than when you are speaking in front of someone. You tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them all that juicy information, and then you wrap it up with the information that you shared. One of the things a little bit different when sharing a webinar versus giving a live presentation, people tend to, get distracted or likely are multitasking. So you need to use language that's going to pull them back in. For example, point or direct them to something specific on your slide. Like I said earlier on, oh, in the lower left corner, there's a link to Facebook's information. Or as I flip to this next slide or reference this visual, pulls them back in. And if you can, try to do that about every 5 minutes throughout your presentation.
And the only thing I would add is that putting a webinar on is a process. We are certainly going through that ourselves. I think it's important to just continue to be a human. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And if nothing else, if you have some questions on how to get started on a webinar, we're happy to be a resource for you.
Google My Business, as always, is fantastic. Google has a ton of resources. Again, lower left-hand corner, there's a link there with a ton of information that is going to be of value to you. I would highly recommend that you log into your Google My Business account right after this webinar. Update any information, including business hours, any of the information as far as how you're changing your service offerings, if you're adding any extra value to the community within your Google My Business, and you can see that kind of on that lower right-hand corner, you can actually add a post that displays when someone searches your business, and that post will stay up on that for 30 days. So you can include the information about what's happening in your business there. This is a good place to update your phone number as well. So if you're not going to be in the office and you want to have a different phone number shared, update your Google My Business as well. The last thing that I wanted to share as far as Google My Business and really any platform that has reviews, this is a really good time to reach out to your network and your client base. I mean, anyone and everyone is trying to help out in any way possible and be a resource. You can ask them to review you and help elevate your business a little bit online.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question that people want to support other members of their community right now, and reviews last forever, right? And so again, as we are able to push forward, those reviews are going to stay strong. And so as Lori mentioned, don't be afraid to reach out to your network, as that is an opportunity that someone can support your business, just to take a few minutes to write a review.
So video is hot. We've known this for a while. The statistic about 52% of marketers name video as their the top type of content that's generating the best ROI. Some best practices for producing video have some strong lighting, really good sound quality. Keep it short and sweet unless the content is required to be longer, and maximize uploading to those social media channels.
And I think it's important to remember here again to just remain human. Don't be afraid to show people what your office space looks like at home. Don't be afraid to, again, pull some of that evergreen video content that you've used in the past and repurpose it.
One of my favorite things right now, and I think, again, great opportunity for everyone to maximize their exposure and get their message out there, is to be conducting interviews. It's one of the easiest ways to get your content shared. As you interview someone, they're very likely to share that interview on someone else's channel. So we do a lot of podcast interviews internally. We will interview people for blog posts, and pretty soon we're going to be interviewing individuals with video, right, Will? We'll share that later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, this goes back to sharing content, right? And this rush to try and put fresh and new content, which can be very difficult as you're trying to deal with everything else that's going on in your business right now. So finding a resource like we've posted here on this slide that actually allows you to be a guest and be interviewed yourself, that's a great way for other people to actually produce a lot of that content that you can then share on your social platforms.
So interviewuservices.com, what they do is they help you get placed on other podcasts specifically. And if you reach out to Wendy, who is the owner of Interview You Services, mention Keystone Click, she will get you a complimentary booking on top of the strategy package. There's a number of services out there. Podcastguest.com is another one that I've used before and I've seen that will help you get placed on interviews on other channels, both video and podcasts. Something that you should really consider doing right now is updating your website, at the very least your homepage, with a message with regards to how your business is functioning and responding to the current COVID-19 crisis. Consider adding a dedicated blog post or a specific page that talks about what your business is doing, and definitely provide resources if available. If you go to our website, keystoneclick.com, we have a list of resources that we've identified. We also have a list of resources at the end of this presentation. Everything that's in this presentation will also be on the website.
And I just want to add to that, because it is a good opportunity just to remind people, obviously things are hectic right now, and this is a phenomenal reminder that Lori has provided, but also just make sure that your content is being updated constantly, all the time, right? The more relevant and updated that your content is, the better the chances are that people are going to be able to find that content in the search engine.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about networking. As some of you know, that I host a podcast called Social Capital, and the topic is heavily is networking. One of the questions that I ask my guests is, between digital and traditional networking, which one do you find more value in? I've interviewed over 200 professionals across the globe, and 46% of my guests have answered traditional. Now, obviously, today that is not a realistic way to network. So we have to focus a little bit more on how to network in a digital place. So I've got a couple tips and tools here, no different than, in person. You want to just be you, be genuine, be consistent with your outreach. One of the benefits I find on networking online versus the traditional is, in person is a one-to-one conversation, where in digital you can have a one-to-many conversation and relationship. So you're putting one message out there, and many people are able to see and engage and interact with it. Excuse me. Make sure that you're adding value with any of the information that you're sharing online, and really try to figure out the type of content that you're creating and how is it going to align with what you want to be known for or your personal brand. As mentioned before, when you're trying to connect with someone on LinkedIn, just take an extra minute to write a custom message, letting that individual know why you're interested in connecting with them. And as again mentioned previously, be an advocate for others by commenting and liking their posts, especially if what they published was valuable to you.
And one of the highlights of my week this week was the opportunity to still get together with a small group that I typically meet with every couple of weeks in person. We had a virtual meeting this week. And while all of our pain points might be different and what we're going through is different, we still took an opportunity to just share ideas with each other and just connect. And it was just a really great reminder of the community that I'm a part of and the people that are out there that want to be resources. So I would encourage others to maybe invite 2 or 3 people to just a strategy session where you just talk about ideas. And if nothing else, you're able to kind of get things off your chest about what's been going on in your specific place of business right now.
I think that's a good time to talk about creating a group. So if you have established groups that you've been meeting with in person, definitely you can leverage tools such as Zoom to turn that into a virtual meetup. This is a good time to consider starting a digital group as well, either a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group, or some other tools and resources that are out there where you can connect on a common topic, whether it be the industry that you're in, the crisis mode you want to talk about, the challenges that you're experiencing. There's tons of different topics that you can identify, or just look for a group out there. So there are a number of Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups, and basically any topic that you can think of, I bet you're going to find something. Will, you've got the hockey players in business group, right?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. And now is again, it's one of those things that should be there forever and for a long time, but it's definitely an opportunity right now to just make sure that our community in particular is staying in touch. And there's no question people want to be resourceful, and giving people an opportunity to just have, find others going through what they're going through and communicate with one another.
Nice. The last best practice and tip that I'm going to share with you, that it's extremely important to know your customer and understand the experience that you are providing to them. So this is a good opportunity to test that. Fill out the contact forms on your website. Are you happy with the experience? Call the office. Even though you are working remotely, what is the message that's being communicated on your phones in the voicemail when someone's calling in? All of those things. Are you satisfied with that experience that you were expecting to get? If not, this is a fantastic time to update those items. All right, we've got a couple of resources for you here. Again, this entire list is published on keystoneclick.com, and the link that's at the top of our homepage will provide it. I'm just going to talk briefly about a couple of them. So Workshare, this is something I learned about in a webinar that I attended yesterday. For small business owners, this is a national program with the goal is to minimize unemployment. My understanding is that this program pays the difference between the employers paying and the reduced time. So if you are lowering the time of your team, so cutting their hours, Workshare will pay the difference, and their goal is, as mentioned, to minimize unemployment. The other one I want to point out is check with your state's economic development center. I know that we're in Wisconsin. I know a handful of the attendees right now are also from Wisconsin. Wisconsin specifically has allotted $5 million for this program. There was still more information to be communicated, but this is what I've read thus far. And another one I think is unique and not a lot of individuals are aware of, more so a loan than a grant. But Kiva loans, it used to be up to $10,000. They've changed it to $15,000, and this is basically crowdsourced funding at a 0% interest for these loans. So basically, you find individuals to help you get that loan, and then you pay it back over time. A couple of other ones are on there. Again, all of these resources will be published on our website at keystoneclick.com. The final words that we have to share with you, and then we'll open it up for questions. Based on the conversation that I had with my agency friend in China, I mean, even though that they are starting to recover, we are in the early stages of this, and we do not know how long it's going to last. I mean, we have a totally different government system than China does, so you have to plan for the long term. One of the things that a big takeaway that I learned when having this conversation with her was to start discussing your fees with your vendors right now. So if you can negotiate lowering your rent or prolonging the rent fee, there's some tools out there. For example, Adobe Creative Suite is offering all freelancers 2 to 3 months free. I've seen a number of other tools out there. So now is the time to prepare and take action on some of these things. It's also the time for you to stand out and be helpful, be a resource as much as possible. Don't try selling, just give to the community. I mean, what you do right now on behalf of the community is what's going to be remembered. So just take the time and energy to be good to others. Support the local restaurants that are hurting right now. I've seen some experiences such as people paying for services, even though, house cleaning services, their barbers, their hairstylists, these relationships that they've had for a long time, but these companies are hurting, but they're still doing what they can to support. And at the end of the day, just be safe and be smart with the actions that you're doing.
Yeah, I will just politely piggyback off of that. Be safe and be smart.
Thank you so much. Any questions that we can answer for you? One thing I did want to note, and I forgot to build a fancy slide for this. We are offering something new. We're going to just try it out. We're going to do 15-minute strategy sessions. We're going to record it on video, and then we're going to publish it on social media free of charge. If you are interested in this, we're just going to take the first 5. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Email Will Jurgensen. His email is on the slide, will.jurgensen@keystoneclick.com. and just put a video strategy session in the subject line, and he'll get back to you with a couple of dates and times. All right, we're going to open up for questions now. Thanks a lot.